So with a lot of kind of stuff where you're talking about power dynamics, if I was just talking as a lone parent, like what I would be arguing for is more recognition of women as a group, and more, you know, and saying that women are not actually a minority. We are fucking 52% of the population. We are a significant part. But actually, with looked after children, I'm never saying that. Not ever. We're a very distinct and unique population. Because first of all, I'm always talking about, I want to reduce the occurrence of that. We don't want more looked after children. We don't want children brought into the looked after system because it's brilliant. We don't want to valorise the state's care. The first responsibility that you have when you come from the looked after system is to make sure people are aware that we must not bring children into this system unless we really fucking have to. Now, unlike, everybody's used to thinking of us as powerless, and we are very powerless. Our outcomes are fucking appalling for 1,000,001 reasons. But we're actually not in this particular crisis. In fact, we're really not at all. In fact, we're a fucking earthquake. Just say that they all have to accommodate. So because our outcomes are so bad, first of all, there's always a tension between debates about the deserving and the undeserving and us, because we're highly likely to be the undeserving in just about every way. We are highly likely to be repeating cycles of trauma, abuse. We find, you know, you could train an institutional economist for 100 years and you wouldn't know what I know. But I have to work really fucking hard and consciously think about reproducing systems that everybody else just does by reflex. I had to learn to parent from scratch, like literally from scratch. I have to question all my reflexes, like our life courses are not like other people's. We are highly likely to end up in prison, sex work, mental health figures. You know, we have, our normal is not good. And so if we only need state support once or twice in our life, that's an army of people who deserve a really big, good pat on the back. But within this system, this is a natural evolution in citizenship, which means that all parties have to accommodate it to get out of this crisis. I know, and I've known this for fucking ages. So we are innately tied, our outcomes are innately tied to political responsibility. Our outcomes are innately tied to policy failure. We are where you have to acknowledge policy failure, because all the fucking policies fail around us usually. And you know, my experiences of that system were very good. I had, you know, excellent foster carers, I had excellent social workers. That was still a broken system, and it still, you know, exposed me to fucking God knows what that I'm not going to discuss here. They force us to understand that this takes priority over the identity of the class who have emerged to say that they identify as our representation. They are no longer allowed to do that. Now, we are the first generation of looked after children, so we only emerged 1989, and we are the first time that this has happened. The state had parental responsibility for us, so we always have an innate understanding of the relationship as a parent-child relationship. And because the state's responsibilities to look after children cannot be abdicated, and we keep functions around these children, people like me who reflect on policy failure. Now, it's rather ironic, I think, that the looked after child emerged under Thatcher, and it was actually Margaret Thatcher who introduced the Children's Act in a video on Blue Peter, I think, because we were all shown it. And it's rather interesting because looked after children are the first true individuals to emerge under Thatcherism, because largely Thatcherism was about a faux individualism. It was about hiding from the reality of the benefit of kinship relations in class and inheritance. And looked after children are the individuals who show what happens when individuals do not have those things, and where the state knows why they don't have those things. And so over the course of our life, of course, data will organically build up to show what happens when people don't have them, or where their kinship relations are not reliable, or where they're dysfunctional. And so we are a data source that will provide that. Now, we have offices that have emerged, like the Children's Commissioner's Office, and I think they were 2004, who have emerged to oversee this. And while I know it doesn't feel like it, because we have been fucking battered by austerity and because it is a silent crisis in local authorities, this is actually the period where we have to review what we have learned during the time that we have been doing child protection. So the child abuse inquiry is currently doing that learning. And within that learning is an understanding of institutional failure and how power dynamics shaped institutions. And within that is an understanding of why earlier institutional forms failed. I have to say, as somebody who is a looked after social worker, a looked after child social worker, we currently do not have the ability to oversee or manage the safety of the children in the looked after system properly, because we fractured down all the institutions to private providers and we don't have the ability to oversee them. And this is going to have to change. We need functions to develop at elite level that can spot the difference between bullshit and theory that has value. We don't currently relate theory to practice, and we force this. And even though we're brand new, and even though we have no power, it's actually through us that this new bottom line has to be acknowledged. Now, the first stage of this crisis, the next stage of this crisis, is as local authorities fail and the reality of what we have done to these systems becomes apparent, along with the child abuse inquiry, along with a whole bunch of stuff, and along with a consolidation through trans rights activists, actually, that we have to be ever vigilant. This knowledge will embed and will consolidate. And so if you keep an eye, I'm not going to make this happen, I'm not a fucking witch. If you keep an eye on responsibilities to look after children, you will find that they develop. And through local authority failure, it's actually the first time since we started taking this seriously that we've ever had the opportunity to review how systems should work for these children, and we've never had the opportunity to do this from scratch. This has emerged in local authorities that first of all it was big state, like, you know, big bureaucracies that were kind of modified under neoliberalism and they were kind of crumbling anyway, and then because the trade union for looked after children has been a labour tool, they've never had trade union representation. And through the failure of local authorities and through the failure of other institutions, this is actually the first time that we could properly start from scratch. And that's actually no bad thing. That's actually no bad thing. And in fact, that's an incredible opportunity. And right now, policymakers should be looking and understanding that this is an inevitable crisis, and that at the point in time when we come to this crisis, we have to review the learning over the course of the last settlement. So we have to review what we have learned about looked after children from 1945 to now. It's kind of overdue. We have to look at how institutions work together around these children. We have to look at their life course, and we have to use them as the basis for policy making instead of debates about the deserving and undeserving. And then because this is, my generation is the first generation where data has been produced that can be found, we're now a population who can be measured life course. This has never been the case before. And I'm fairly certain that while everything's up in the air, that that's what will come through this crisis.